What did you see from Caleb yesterday? 280 yards, a quarterback rating of 114.4, 3 touchdowns, and his 4th game-winning drive since week 18 of last year for Caleb Williams and the Bears offense yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw more of the same of what they've been doing, but again, a good balanced attack. Um, a lot of really good play calls that were working for him, and Caleb making some plays. And I mean, again, I just think this offense continues to grow, or at least show signs of being a really good offense and being able to do a lot of different things from an execution standpoint. Um, and then when it comes to Caleb, it's kind of the same stuff that you see him make some really good plays, or some other times I'd love to see him anticipate a little bit more on what's coming and what's there. Sometimes he holds the ball a little bit, but again, I think it's all stuff that you've started to see this year, and it's an uptick from last year. And for however long, we kind of go down this path. You get to a certain point and you're like, okay, great, he's made strides from last year, but then at some point we're going to want him to make strides from where he's at now to take the next step. And I think that's just kind of where I am now, and watching him is like, okay, I think I got a good sense of who he is right now as a quarterback in this offense. And you just sit back and wait and go, okay, I'm looking forward to, if there's a moment where you start to see a little bit of a change, moving forward in terms of some of those things that I'm talking about. And can he take that next step? And I don't know when that happens. I don't know if it happens in the middle of this year. I don't know if it happens after this year and it's second year in the system. But I think that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So when you have a bunch of trick plays, like I don't want an offense that's based on trick plays, but the execution of the trick plays yesterday by the Bears was really good. Does that mean that as an offense, they have elevated to a point where Ben Johnson feels it's that he can put that stuff in? Or was it just like, hey, we could take advantage of this team that's in front of us with some misdirection and making them see some stuff that's not there?
Yeah, that's hard to know. I think a lot of times coaches call trick plays, one of two reasons. One, you have absolutely nothing going, so let's call a trick play and see if we can fool them into a play. Or, we're kind of in our bag and we're doing a lot of good stuff, and so we can try one of these trick plays and see if we can steal, a big play. And if we don't, no worries, because we're feeling really good about where we're at and we'll be able to make up for it. And then I think the other side too is that, sometimes it takes trick play. Like very seldom do you put in a trick play, a new trick play each week and then run it. Oftentimes you're putting in trick plays, weeks ago or months ago. And it might be something that you're trying every single week and you're practicing it. And maybe it's just getting to that point in the season where Ben feels, okay, some of these things we've been practicing since whenever, I don't know, off season or training camp, are finally, in a position where we feel really good that we can execute them at a high level. Just like you were saying yesterday, they executed them very well. It may just be, hey, we've been practicing this for 8 weeks. Now it's game ready. Now we're ready to go. And so I think there could be a lot of different factors, to why they're running them now and why they're having some success. But I would guess it's a comfort level of where they're at offensively, where now they feel that they can break some of those other things out, and it's not going to cost them a game, or it's not something that they're afraid to do.
I'm wondering if you can expound on the Caleb thought from a couple answers ago of what do you see that needs to get better when he takes a step, because it's good to have a sober eye and think about as he's getting better, as the team is a playoff contender right now. What are some of the things that you saw yesterday or on the tape that you're like, oh man, wait till he does this or does that differently?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the biggest thing for me is a little bit more anticipation with some things. I feel like he's, again, trying to go through his reads, trying to feel that out. But it's more, let me see the guy come open, as opposed to, oh, I know based on the structure of the defense, this guy's going to be open, so I can hit my back foot or I can take a quick hitch and I can let this ball go. and I don't have to hold on to it that extra tick to see and make sure. I think that's kind of the biggest thing for me is just playing faster in that regard and playing there from the standpoint of what you're seeing structurally with the defense. You understand where the weaknesses are or where the bodies are comparative to what the play call is, and you can just start to play ahead of the game a little bit. Last year I thought he played behind the game a lot. Was slow seeing things and getting things out and holding the ball too long. This year, I think he's better with that, but he still needs to see it come open, and then he makes the throw. And I think the next step is to be able to, as I was saying, anticipate that, see it before it happens, so he can play kind of ahead of schedule or on schedule with a lot of those plays.
You're listening to a Plumbers 911 Football Monday presented by Busey Bank and Great Clips. We're talking with Kurt Warner. The Bears' run game has been strong. This is one of the things that we saw in Detroit from Ben Johnson. As the quarterback evolves, how important, especially in this offense, which is so predicated on play action, how important is it that run game continue to be strong, and what can then happen with Caleb if it is?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you can create a lot of easier throws for a quarterback off of play action. So that's kind of the first thing. If you can run the football and you can get guys on the other side playing downhill, it can create some easy big plays for you, which is such a huge part of things. I think it can, open things up in terms of, how you're going to play football. Like you don't have to always spread it out and force your quarterback to have to see, with all these bodies going out, that you can really simplify some of the pass concepts that you run when you're running play action, which always can make it easier on a quarterback because you're cutting it down. And this pure progression stuff that I talk about all the time. I'm not a big fan of it, when we're talking about drop back type game. But oftentimes when you're running play action, it is more of a pure progression type thing, just based on the routes that you have and the way that it's set up. Is we're going to come off the play action and we're going to look at this first. If we get this linebacker to pull up, or we get this safety to pull up, and so it can make that a little bit smoother because that's something that he's obviously been comfortable with, and you're cutting down the number of people that you're looking to see. Instead of 5, a lot of times it's 3, or we're cutting the field in half, and so eyes are always going to be over here. And so I think all of those things can simplify the game for any quarterback, and can simplify it for a young quarterback, and can be a way that they can create some opportunities for Caleb, so he's not having to create them all himself.
We will rally around Kurt Warner, and we're doing that right now here on Spiegel and Holmes. So the biggest play of the game was an absolute dart from Caleb to Colston Loveland that he then, turns into a touchdown because the 2 Bengals safeties kind of bounced off him. But it was fascinating to hear after the game that Ben Johnson said, yeah, we had that play that we were thinking about. We were hunting a coverage for it all day long. And Caleb said the same thing, hunting a coverage. And then Colston actually gave up the ghost. Colston said, yeah, we were looking for split safeties. So that's what it was. What can you tell us about, what they're looking for and why maybe that play worked?
Well, I mean, there was nothing fancy to it at all. It was just basically a read right down the middle. And so you're hoping in those situations that a team does drop back into a too high look, leaves the middle of the field wide open. And then, a lot of teams in those situations will kind of run their Mike linebacker back, what they call Tampa 2, or drop a kind of third safety into a high position there. But, they kept all their guys down. So it was just a perfect kind of middle read for them. So, I mean, it's something that we all run a million times throughout a game. And the number of times you kind of hit that guy down the middle is very few and far between. But as I said, they got the perfect coverage for that in that situation. The safety split. Nobody ran down the middle to make that throw harder for Caleb. And obviously it turned into a huge play.
Loveland was the number 1 target on that play. And he's had a very rough, not rough, but he just hasn't had production. Very slow in terms of production, and he had a huge game yesterday. Good. Does a coach sometimes dial up more stuff with the tight end as the number one? They also had him outside at wide receiver a couple of times, as opposed to making him the 3 or the 4 on a given play, just to try and boost the opportunity to get him the ball.
For sure. I'm a huge believer that, a really good athletic tight end can be one of the biggest mismatches in football because of how you can play them and where you play them, and the fact that they're being covered by linebackers a lot of the times, especially in play action type looks, to get a linebacker to hesitate and then have an athletic tight end running down the field. Really, really tough on those linebackers. So, yeah, I think if you find a guy that you believe can be a mismatch for you, and either A, he's playing really well, or B, you want to try to, boost that confidence and get him some touches, of course, there's, a million different ways to use a guy like Loveland to be able to create those mismatches or put him at the point of attack on a lot of different throws. And so, I expect that to continue to be a part of what Ben wants to do. He's got some really good weapons to play with, but again, I think you see it all over the league. When you have really good athletic tight ends, they are a tough cover for anybody, and you can create a lot of great opportunities for them.
Kurt, I was amazed by the ball placement of Joe Flacco yesterday. Like the throws that he made, I thought they were really outstanding. So a couple things here. One, why is he having success? And two, what weren't the Bears doing yesterday? Because it does leave me a little bit worried that they might be susceptible to another passing attack by someone else. Now, other teams don't have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but it was still incredible that this guy threw for almost 500 yards yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of those deals where, the Bears defense doesn't get overly complicated. They don't throw a whole bunch of different looks at you. They've just been really good and solid at what they do. And so there's times that you have teams that are like that, where it's like, hey, talk about Tampa 2, the Tampa team back in the day. I knew they were only going to do two things. And most of the time they were going to be in Tampa 2, and then they would switch it up by dropping the cover 3 or bringing up a 4-strong or 4-weak blitz. Like, that's all they did. But they were great at it. And so they made it really, really hard on you. And, but at the same time, I knew going in, okay, this is how we beat it. Like, this is where we're going to have success. Now, whether we did or not, depended on a lot of different factors, and a lot of times the pressure up front. But I felt like, the Bears defense was very much like that. It's like, we kind of know what they're going to do, and they're going to play these base, shell coverages. And that's what we're going to see, and that's what we're going to have to beat. And that's exactly what the Bengals did. That's exactly what, they did. Was they ran a lot of base, concepts, which they've been doing since Joe has gotten there. And, they have good players, obviously, on the outside. But they just kind of took advantage of, those base defenses that Chicago was playing. And there was just guys open all over the place. They were working them with spacing. And then Joe, as you said, was throwing it with timing to his guys, and his guys were making plays for him. And, there just wasn't anything complicated either side. Complicated to what Chicago was doing defensively, complicated with the concepts, that they were taking advantage of to attack it. And Joe has actually played really well since he's got there. He seemed to fit in really well, and that big arm of his that can push the ball down the field. I think he's playing well, and he's confident in those things and confident in the guys around him. And, this isn't the first time that he's thrown for a lot of yards since he's been there.
Yeah, it's probably makes you want to suit up, right? Come on, Kurt.
Yeah, if I could throw it like Joe still could, maybe. That guy's got a cannon. I don't think he's ever going to lose that arm of his.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He also likes eating dinner alone. Did you see that? Did you see that thing from a couple weeks ago?
I did.
Yeah.
I had that conversation with my wife, who said she's never eaten dinner alone in her life. And I'm like, come on, not even at an airport, like nothing. And she's like, no, never. I would never do that. And I was just the opposite. I'm like, I get it. I got no problem with that. If I'm traveling, if I'm by myself,
Yeah.
I'll go have a nice little, quiet meal by myself. I'll be okay with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm down with that. So it's possible
Yeah.
if I'm walking through Scottsdale, I can walk into Bourbon and Bones, and you're there at the bar just by yourself having a meal.
Probably not very often in Scottsdale, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I've gone to movies by myself.
My man.
I've gone to dinner by my. Hey, if I want to go do it, I'll do it. I'm not worried about whether I've got somebody next to me. My wife would be rather, have food come into the house and just sit in bed and eat by herself. But sometimes it's just better going out, being around people, even if you're not sitting with them.
Yeah. Even if they're just nearby.
That's right. That's
I feel
right.
you. I feel you. By the way, a texter points out, interesting as Kurt talks about athletic tight ends and how useful they can be. Your guy Mike Martz, not a big fan back in the day. We remember from the Greg Olsen trade. We remember it very fondly here in Chicago.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I don't know if he was I don't know if he was necessarily not a huge fan. But yeah, I mean, I think, we were fortunate to have a lot of talent at other places. So you kind of build your offense and get used to playing around those guys. But I'm sure Mike could have done some really good things with some of the tight ends we've got in the league now for sure.
Kurt, this was awesome, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys, take care.